Hello, everyone. Sid here from Team Sur Real Estate. And surprise, surprise, the government of Canada has decided to put some amendments to the foreign home buyers ban just 2 months after they put the original ban into effect on January 1st, 2023. If you guys remember, January 1st, 2023, government of Canada put into effect a foreign home buyers ban, essentially banning foreign buyers from purchasing property in Canada for a period of 2 years. Now, this ban came with a lot of backlash from people saying that the ban's not going to really have much impact. I said so myself back when the ban came out, where some people were sort of celebrating this ban, saying that this is what was needed. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what the new amendments are, what they mean, and whether or not they're going to have any impact on the foreign buyers ban moving forward. So I'm just going over the article that was published by Storeys.com by Howard Chai yesterday. So I'm going to go over each amendment and just sort of break it down for you guys in layman's terms and what it means. So on Monday, the government of Canada announced a series of amendments to the foreign buyer ban, officially called the Prohibition on the Purchase of Residential Property by Non-Canadians Act. That's the official name of the ban. I know everybody calls it the foreign buyers ban, but that's the official name for it, the name of the act, to expand the exceptions to the regulations, some of which have become an unintended thorn in the sides of developers across the country. So essentially, before we even get to this article, the government got a lot of pushback, mostly from the development side, from the developers, saying that the ban's having some negative impact on their business, essentially. And as you will see with the ban, a lot of it, the amendments really have to do with the development side. So the four amendments to the foreign buyer ban are effective immediately as of March 27, 2023, and are as follows. So the number one is the foreign control threshold is now at 10%. While the foreign buyer ban was originally created with the individual Canadians and the resale market in mind, a less discussed aspect of the ban was its effect on the development industry, particularly with the legislation deeming an entity as foreign if non-Canadians owned 3% or more of it. In the short months since the ban came into effect on January 1st, this 3% has been repeatedly cited by developers as overly restrictive, specifically for real estate investment trusts, or REITs. With the amendment, the maximum amount of non-Canadian control in a REIT subject to the foreign buyer ban is now 10%. So essentially what this means is that previously, with the previous ban, if you had a entity like a corporation, like a REIT, a real estate investment trust, who typically they buy apartment buildings and commercial plazas and really, really big purchases. They have thousands and thousands of investors in a REIT. If you're a non-Canadian, a non-resident, then you could only have a REIT could only consist of 3% of non-Canadians. And I think REITs and entities like REITs gave some pushback, saying that I guess a lot of their investors tend to be foreigners and non-Canadians, or non-residents, I should say. And I think that's where the pushback is coming from. So they're now increasing the allowance to 10%. So now, instead of only 3% of non-Canadians in a REIT or in an entity, they can now have 10%. This really doesn't apply as much to your everyday buyer or seller. This more so has to do with REITs and big developers and big entities that buy, plazas and commercial buildings and residential apartments, and et cetera. So not much to do with the regular day-to-day, buyers and sellers, but it is very interesting to see that they're getting some pushback from the development side, or the government is. Next up, we've got purchasing for the purpose of development. Perhaps even more of a relief is the new exception that allows non-Canadians to purchase residential property if the purpose is development. Previously, this exception was only applicable to publicly traded corporations. According to CMHC FAQ, development does not include the mere purpose of leasing or renting the property out to tenants or otherwise managing it as a rental property as part of its portfolio. Repairs, renovations, and remodeling also do not count as development, but the CMHC notes that some expansions or remodels that are tantamount to the construction of a new building or change of use, such as one that would create a new residential property, do and now will be allowed. Essentially, what they're now hopefully pushing towards is, with this amendment, is they're allowing foreign buyers and non-Canadians and non-residents to get involved on the development side. In the past, you could only, or with the original ban, only if you were a publicly traded company could you be allowed to purchase residential property for the purposes of development, which is adding more inventory into the market. There's no surprise that we have a shortage of inventory, and I think this amendment really comes from that perspective, which is the shortage of supply. Any source that we can bring in to add more inventory to the market at this point, in my opinion, is good. So I think this will, if anything, is better for Canadians and just people that are looking to get in the housing market, because this will hopefully, I mean, we'll see what happens, increase supply a little bit, although that's a whole other video of how we're always going to be short on the supply issue. But again, this is not bad. I think this is pretty okay in the sense that if it contributes to adding more inventory, then great. Essentially, now a foreign buyer or non-resident can be involved in the development and to add more residential units, as long as they're not building in order to rent out or lease out. So again, it's not to buy and flip, or it's not to buy and rent out like a lot of people thought. Most of downtown Toronto was owned by foreign investors and being rented out. They're not allowing that here. It's more so to develop residential property and develop land. So the ban, next one, we got the ban no longer applies to vacant land. Under the previous regulations, vacant land zoned for residential use or mixed use with residential could not be purchased by non-Canadians. The government of Canada is now appealing that restriction, and with the change, non-Canadians can now purchase vacant land zoned for residential use and use it for any purpose. So again, this is geared towards developing more residential properties and bringing in more inventory and hopefully units for residential purposes. Again, not to lease it out, but to just create more housing. Before this amendment took place with the original ban, foreign buyers were not able to purchase vacant land. And now they can, as long as it's zoned for residential use, they can now buy it and hopefully build more residential units that are needed. Lastly, Amendment number 4 is the ban no longer applies to work permit holders. A common criticism of the foreign buyer ban has been that it seemingly contradicts the federal government's lofty immigration goals, or even gives the appearance of xenophobia by limiting the ability of those who may be looking to settle down in Canada from buying homes. Now, those who hold a work permit or are authorized to work in Canada are allowed to purchase residential property so long as they have 183 days of validity or more remaining on their permit and have not purchased more than one residential property. Again, essentially opening this up to work permit holders. If you're here on a work permit, meeting certain conditions like having 183 days of validity on your work permit remaining, they can go ahead and purchase residential property, again, with the hopes that they will live in Canada, they will contribute to the economy, they will work here, and they will settle here, start a family here. It is opening the doors for them to purchase residential property here as well. So I think that, that seems fair. But, I'll end off with this. I mean, the rest of it just kind of goes into, just some comments by people within the government giving their typical answers of how this is going to benefit everybody. But here's and you guys are free to read this on your own. I'm going to link this article in the description. My take from all of this, my original stance on the foreign home buyers ban was laughable, because I said this from the beginning when the ban first took effect, this was going to have no impact on real estate prices. And even with the amendments, it's not going to have any effect on real estate prices. Foreign buyers, if you look at the past decade, have contributed on a high end to maybe 4% of all residential purchases. Not enough to make even the slightest dent in real estate prices. So to think that a foreign buyer's ban was going to do anything to stop prices from rising is a joke. It's not foreign buyers who have been contributing to the rise in real estate prices or buying up all properties, is what the notion was, or at least that was the rumor going around. That was never the case. The issue, again, going back, I feel like I'm always beating a dead horse, and that is the issue is supply. We don't have supply in this country, and especially in this province, especially in the GTA, and that's the real issue. The foreign buyers ban, I don't think it's going to do much. It was strictly a political move to appease to their to their constituents and to just the anger that was generated by the Canadian public regards to housing prices. Their issue really is supply, and that's something that they need to cover. Until they cover that and do more to tackle the supply issue, I don't think this is going to have any impact. So I hope you guys found some value in this video. If you did, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to share. And of course, please subscribe to my channel for all things real estate. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.